Welcome to MEDMEN. This is Andy.
That's Pim. And you know, Pim, it's been a while since we got together to record an episode. And I have a question. And it may be a little bit of a loaded question.
Uh-oh. I was going to say, should I sit down? But I'm already sitting down. So
I just wondered if there's any lessons that you could share with our audience that you've learned in your role as CRO since we last met.
I mean, so many, right? It's like since we last met, to your point, it's been a while. I think we've seen, the team grow. We've seen many different prospects that we engage with as a selling team ourselves. And even for us, like, things don't always go exactly perfectly or according to plan, right? So, yeah, there are definitely some lessons. Is there something specific that you would want to?
Maybe just a deal that we thought was more solid than it turned out to be, and how, in hindsight, kind of felt a bit daft.
Yeah, so what I'll actually start with is a MEDDPICC element to kind of tee this up, because one of the biggest things for me very early on when I found out about MEDDPICC was the way that we can start considering competition, right? Which is different than just rivals.
Of course, yeah.
And so for me, that was a bit of an eye-opener years ago. And I was like, okay. And in this particular case, like the deal that I would want to zoom in on is that we massively underestimated like self-build as competition.
Yeah. It's so funny that seems such a binary competitor. Because we talk about competitors being your rivals, of course, another initiative, which could be anything. It's basically anything that's going to rival you or compete with you for budget or resource.
Right.
Inertia, doing nothing, staying the same is competitor. And then we always kind of include self-build, because if it is in the mix, it's a real threat. But I feel like you go so long without seeing it. There's so many categories.
Yeah.
Security, infrastructure, marketing tech, all of these categories, you rarely see self-build, rarely see it. But then occasionally you'll come across an industry where it is quite a big thing. And so if that is the case, you absolutely have to include it as a competitor that you look for all the time.
Yeah, and so in this particular case, if we look through the lens of value, like there was zero question marks around like the additional value that we would be able to deliver, right? However, like that doesn't just happen. Yeah. So even if you can do the same thing that they would build for themselves 1,000 times better, which we truly believed, it's not going to be a foregone conclusion that still plays out the way that you kind of would like it to see play out, right? And so I think that if you really start to pick it apart, there were a couple of things wrong in reflection that we should have acted on earlier, which is like the absence of a true and tested champion, making sure that we can get into a position to articulate, the pain and the value that we would bring to this business, so that we would influence their decision criteria enough that we would ultimately end up partnering. So I guess in summary, what the point that I'm trying to make there is that we were never in a truly mutual evaluation of getting this partnership off the ground, as they were set on like the self-build. All the resources and the attention were going into that direction already. And so, yeah, there's like a big lesson there, and there's probably something to say for every single MEDDPICC element.
Yeah, I think so. And I think this is like, obviously the stakeholder elements were crucial here. Absolutely crucial. But of course, the thing with building a champion, finding a champion and building a champion, is they have to understand what value you can bring to them. What pain is it that we can uniquely solve? And making them truly understand how we uniquely solve that pain comes back to decision criteria. And the interesting thing on reflection from my perspective looking at this deal was that we, from a decision criteria perspective, the self-build option, if we call it technical, because we're effectively talking about them creating their own training content. From a decision criteria perspective, technically, there wasn't a single technical decision criteria that we could point to that they had a strength in self-build. They are not going to have the level of expertise that we have. They're not going to have the level of experience that we have. For me, so much of what we do is pattern recognition, where we've had literally tens of thousands of questions as we've been helping to enable organizations. And so we build the answers to those questions into our programs. They're going to approach it completely afresh. So all of those things we naturally answer in our programs, those we solve as we go, they have zero pattern recognition. It's just going to be a definition of M stands for this, E stands for that.
Yeah.
And I don't think they disagree, right? And so from if we call it technical decision criteria, it's bang. Like there's no, our content's going to be more engaging. Our content is going to be more relevant. Our content's going to be more thought out. Every single part of it's going to check the box. Where we didn't have cover was the economic decision criteria, because ultimately they're thinking, well, if we build this ourselves, we build it once and we've got it then. Not taking into account the maintenance, the idea of updating it and all that kind of stuff as well. And they couldn't, because we didn't have a champion to be able to have that conversation with, we find ourselves getting a little bit like we're just playing catch.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's definitely a factor of us having like happy ears and kind of seeing it for what we wanted it to be. Yeah. And that something that I want to pick up on the basis of what you said, the only decision criteria category where we didn't have cover was indeed economical, because even the relationship decision criteria were in place. We were like a proven partner already on a different side of the business. We did have quite an extensive network within this business, right? So I think we felt overly confident on the basis of history and kind of having the success that we had previously within this business. But again, like there are no guarantees, there are no foregone conclusions, and you can underestimate things, right? So I just think that the thing that you have in your office in the background, nobody regrets qualifying out. We wouldn't have regretted it if we were to do it sooner in this situation. Yeah. Yeah, and then very specifically, the not having engagement means that they weren't engaging in a true evaluation, because we did have access. We could access like the right stakeholders, but getting access and actually engaging are then two different things in this example.
Yeah. So you wouldn't have regretted qualifying out. That's all.
I have never regretted it, but I do regret that we didn't do it sooner here.
So in summary, what are the lessons learned?
Well, the lessons learned are like you shouldn't have happy ears and like the assumption that on the basis of past success, you can just, have like an easy run. And even if you get one, don't treat it as such. The second one for me is like qualify out earlier by staying sharp, right? On the basis of what we just discussed.
Another thing to add in here as well is that we often get the question about how MEDDPICC fits in from a existing customer perspective. And this was an existing customer, right? And maybe people listening along up until what you just said there may not have quite caught where you were reflecting on the previous relationship and things like that, meaning that they are a large organization and they're an existing customer of ours and we were looking to expand that relationship. And it just goes to show, even more so in many cases, how important MEDDPICC is for existing relationships, because it's so easy to go, well, they know us. And we've had tons of success. They're probably one of our happiest customers where we work with them, where we work with them, multiple departments where we work with them. It's an example of why, in many cases, even more so, it's important to make sure we're qualifying MEDDICC, to make sure we're engaged with the right stakeholders, driving the right kind of value conversations, and making sure we're really in charge of the process.
Yeah, so the thing that I will add to that is, because now it's in reflection, right? But in our team, there's never been a moment where anyone has been burned for this specifically, right? Because the onus of making something like this successful is on all of us. And so my view on this now, am I happy that this happened? Well, in many ways, I'm not. But at the same time, as long as you take the lessons from it, as long as you do better because of this going forward, it's acceptable, right? Yeah. So if you think about everything MEDDICC related, it's about focusing on the right things in the right deals and having the common language with your team. And with that, getting better every day. And so that doesn't mean that everything is executed perfectly. That goes for our team as well. So as long as we take it to become better, I can live with that and we'll do better going forward.
Love it. Cheers, Ben.
Cheers, Andy.